Hey there's Wisconsin Wine Guy, and I am back for another wine purge. I kind of missed a week. I had a fun weekend last weekend, but wanted to get this purge in for you for this weekend. Now, this purge for this week is going to be something unique and something that's close to my heart. As you can see, I'm wearing my logo shirt here, which has a 44 on there. And this is going to be our wine purge for this week is going to be the Glacier Red from the Parallel 44 right here in Wisconsin. I can't call myself the Wisconsin wine guy if I'm not drinking Wisconsin wines, right? Right? Okay. So this is going to be a 2014 vintage. I'll tell you more about this, but first I want to. It's a very interesting story about the winery and my relationship with this winery. But I'm going to let the owners tell you a little bit about themselves and how it all began. So I'm trying to do this video in two parts. Okay, so the first part of the video is going to be talking about them, the winery themselves, and then the next video I'm going to try to post up is going to be just talking about. It was going to be a video from 2014, so it should be pretty cool to watch that one as well. So here we go first with the winery owners talking about the wines themselves, and we'll come back and we'll taste the wine. All right, here we go.
My wife and I met back in 1991 in graduate school, and we took our honeymoon out to Napa in 95. We were in a vineyard, and I just thought to myself, why not Wisconsin?
Both of us had wine in our background. My dad was born and raised in Italy and actually made wine for fun. We shared that at family celebrations. It was about gathering and having a meal together and talking with family and friends. So wine always meant something special to me.
And this was a way to truly express my passion and Maria's passion for developing a world-class product in a place that no one ever anticipated could be done.
So although we ended up graduating from law school and practicing for a while, I think the thought of a vineyard and winery really was always in the back of our heads. And it was years later, but finally we did that. I mean, we kind of took the leap and bought this property at Parallel 44 and started a vineyard. And then shortly after that, started a winery.
I like to say the purpose of our place is to offer people something that they can discover, then enjoy it, and then share it with others. So we go the extra mile to craft and invent wines that are a true expression of this area. And I think will have appeal to people, not just those visiting Door County or Parallel 44, but people who live across the country looking for something unique and different and distinctive.
For me, wine is something special. It just feels like something that brings people together over conversation and stories.
That's the beauty of wine. It pulls together so many different human aspects. So, I'm focused on making a product, but ultimately I want them to go away with memories that sustain them for a while.
And it's just really exciting to watch people taste the wine, and maybe they're trying something new and they love it. This is a place people come to be happy, and it's just great to be part of that.
So that's going to be the first part of the video I'm going to show you. And now I'm going to show you a video from 2014, which Steve, the husband, the winemaker and part owner, is going to be talking a little bit more about Parallel 44 and also give you some insight on Wisconsin as a whole and their estate wines. So here we go with that one with Steve, the winemaker from Parallel 44. Give me 1 minute here and we'll get that started. All right, so we'll get that video going. Hi, and here we go.
My name is Steve Johnson, and today I want to talk to you briefly about what an estate wine means and what does terroir mean. I'm standing here behind the vineyards of Parallel 44. And when I say estate wine, I mean wine that it is grown, produced, and bottled right here on the estate of Parallel 44. Now, this vineyard here has been planted since 2005, and from that, we have at least 9 wines that have been minted out of this particular vineyard. Now, that is important in the sense that the French use a term called terroir, and that's loosely translated to mean sense of place. So our sense of place here is very much affected by the soil type, our topography, and our climate. Those all together lead a distinctness to the wines, these 9 wines here, that really cannot be reproduced. And where I'm standing right now is literally the center of the newest appellation or wine region of the country. It is called the Wisconsin Ledge, in reference to the Niagara Escarpment that we're now standing upon. So you may ask, well, what is the particular terroir of the Wisconsin Ledge? Well, it's being determined as we speak here. It really takes generations to develop a particular style, but at this point, I would say that the wines here from the estate of Parallel 44 on the Wisconsin Ledge express a fruit forwardness and a multi-layered acidity, which is due in large part to the glacial till soils that we have here and our proximity to Lake Michigan, which is only 7 miles to the east of us. All those factors are really combining to lead to a distinctiveness that has led to many awards for these wines. Now, a final notion that I'd like to bring out is the French refer to the winemaker or the person as part of the fourth dynamic of what terroir means. And I would like to expand that notion a little bit more to include the customers or the residents of this region to help dictate a style that is going to become world famous. So expect in the near future an invite to all of you out there to assist me in winemaking to come up with a style that reflects your preferences and your palate. Because I think as a region, we have a great opportunity here to come up with a world-class style that will not be able to be reproduced anywhere else in the world. So look to that for the future. And for the meantime, cheers.
All right. So
At Mint Mobile, we like to do
from Parallel 44 and Steve, the winemaker and owner. So let's dive into this. Okay. So my relationship with Parallel 44 goes back a year after they planted. So 2005, as you heard, they planted the vineyard. 2006, they opened the winery, the first winery, Parallel 44. They have a second winery called Door 44, Door County. Now, I had a wine shop at that time. I opened in 2005. So about 2006, I was selling a bunch of different wines to try to be unique as I can. At that time, there was a lot of California wines being sold here in Wisconsin, as with every other place when you had a wine store. And so I wanted to be sort of unique with my wine offerings. And there weren't many wineries in Wisconsin at that time. In fact, being a snooty guy from California, I had different expectations. I'm not going to deny it. But over the years, I've grown to enjoy and love a lot of the wines that are being made here in Wisconsin. We'll get to that in another story. But so Parallel 44 had my store, and at that time, you were able to go and build relationships with the wineries and winery owners. There were probably less than 30 wineries at that time. Parallel 44 was one of those that came across my radar. And in fact, I came across that winery on accident while doing some driving, got lost on the back road. And when I arrived, I was just totally amazed at what I saw. I went into the winery undercover and tasted some wine that they had at the time. I walked up to the winery and just opened up to this beautiful vineyard. It was still a young vineyard. I believe it was probably fall, so vineyard wasn't that old, but it was beautiful. And so tasted some of their wines. At the time, they were making wines from grapes that they brought in, Cabernet, Chardonnay, Gewürztraminer, Merlot. They were making Riesling, some of those wines. And I probably have some of those wines still left. I'm not sure. But anyway, so the wines were phenomenal. I was more interested in the wines coming from the grapes that they produced there, but it wasn't ready yet. But the wines that I tasted at the time were phenomenal, especially considering Steve coming from a background of being, I believe, was an attorney, a different background, but their family, both their families, they had come from a background in the winemaking in their families, and so Maria get a kick out of this if you watch this video. I remember, when I finally exposed myself with who I was, gave him my card, set up an appointment, came back up, and I wanted to buy certain wines and sell them in my store. Of course, being a business owner, I want to get it for a lesser price, so we bantered. I ended up paying regular price for the wines, because there was quality that existed in the wines, that they were making at that time. Years later, moving forward, when the vineyard began to produce wines, they begin making some wine from the grapes that are grown in their vineyard and also throughout Wisconsin. I mean, there weren't many grape growers here in Wisconsin at that time either. I mean, in fact, probably 2009, I started growing grapes myself. In fact, I like to say to people that I began to learn more about wine when I came to Wisconsin, and I tell you why. Coming from one of the more popular areas of winemaking and grape growing, in the world, I was pretty snobby, and I had expectations. I had a chance of working in some wineries and tasting a lot of delicious wine. Oh, get that open. Look at that cork. Wow. This vintage is 2014. I'll give you the deets as we go along. But back to Parallel 44. So purchase some of their wines. When the first vintages of the wines that they're producing, it probably came out 2009. They had a couple of bottles of doing their own. I have to say today they're producing all their wines from grapes grown in their vineyard on the estate and throughout Wisconsin. We have grown like maybe over 140, 160 wineries now we have here in Wisconsin. But the wines that they produce from their own grapes, it had a special place for me, having had grown some of the grapes myself and just tasting the juice and getting a better understanding of Wisconsin soil, Wisconsin grape growing in the grapes. And I like to call they hybrid grapes, grapes that can withstand, cold winters. I mean, in fact, here's a fact for you. The original founder of Buena Vista, his first stop was in Wisconsin with his Cabs and Chardonnays and etc. But they didn't work here. So that's why he went to Sonoma, California, right? So it all began here in Wisconsin, I like to say, first. But in that winery location, that location is a winery today called Bullersheim. But this isn't about them. We'll get to them in another video. But Parallel 44, doing a phenomenal job with a lot of their wines. Had a chance to taste a lot of their wines over the years. But for me, being that wine snob, I wanted to know, what is the aging potential of these wines? In fact, a lot of people wanted to know, the wine may taste good today, but what is it going to taste years later? So I held back quite a few Parallel 44 wines back in the day, that sold at the store, and tasted them over the years, and they age wonderfully. And here's another one here. This is going to be a blend of grapes you probably don't know. Marchael, Foch-Frontenac, and St. Croix. Grapes you probably never heard of. Well, I should say now today you may have heard of these grapes, but once upon a time you never heard of these grapes. I'm going to use my strainer. Each time I do these, I'm more and more prepared. As always, I'm going to filter or decant some of the wine, just give it a chance to air, and then have some that's just going to go straight to glass. Okay, so this is going to be for my decanted wine. This is straight to glass. So give it a taste and see the difference. Now, again, as I said, Parallel 44 has a special place with me because of our history. Spent a lot of years. They were wines that I sold in my store up until closing. Been a part of a lot of their harvests. It's just been a phenomenal experience, phenomenal ride or our journey to watch them grow into the wine that they are today, making great wines. Won countless awards. You also mentioned the Wisconsin Ledge. I mean, Wisconsin has 3 AVAs, and that was 2014 was the vintage, but the Wisconsin Ledge came into existence or became authorized in 2012, so a couple years earlier. We also have Lake Wisconsin, and we have the Upper Mississippi AVA, which encompasses multiple states like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois. Encompasses multiple states, thousands and thousands of acres, designated for grape growing. So a lot of the Midwestern grape growing and AVAs, it's growing, it's expanding, So if you haven't tried any Midwestern wines, give it a try. All the wines in Wisconsin in the Midwest aren't sweet. Once upon a time, but not now. After 26 years, I've been tasting a lot of wine, and I try to do my best to be at the opening of new wineries, or if not being at the opening, having a chance to taste these new wineries, and it just keeps expanding and keeps growing, and the quality keeps getting better, better, and better. That being said, our 2014 Glacial Red Blend, all estate grown grapes, Frontenac, Foch, and St. Croix. Alcohol is coming in at 12.9%. Let's get a taste of these different in the glass and some that I decanted. Smell out the decanter, right? Oh, wow. Nice, nice, nice. Wow. Can't wait to get that into the glass. Now, aged in oak. I can't quite remember if it was French or American. I want to say they were using American oak back then. You can definitely pick on that. Wow. Nice toasty notes here. Ooh, wow. In addition to fruit, that is a nice note. Let's get that poured into the glass here. Make sure I don't spill like I did last time. And give you a look at the coloring. So there's some of that wine. Now, coloring, okay? It aged pretty nice. You know, we have a little bit of, it's 10 years old, 2014. So it goes from a brickish red color down to a garnet color. They're coming from the edge, coming down to the bowl. Same in each glass. Now the nose. This is decanting nose. Wow, does that open up more? In fact, on this nose, from the decanter, it's a lot richer. Whew, a lot more open. You pick up some of the spice of both of those. You get cherry dried fruits here. Yeah, but I love that toastiness that exists here in both of these. I'm going to taste the undecanted wine first. Wow, it's amazing when you're tasting wines, you know, that are aged, and especially a wine from being local here in Wisconsin. You know, over the years of tasting older wines in Wisconsin, you know, like I say to people, you know what? There's proof in the bottle that it can age, right? So here we go. First step, rinse. Second step, taste. Let's make sure that we still have acidity. Here we go. Oh, that acidity is nice. Something else I just thought of. I'm not sure if it was this vintage or 2013, but one of the two vintages uh, had what's Wisconsin wild grapes that Steve's father grew on his land. He eventually brought some of those wild grapes into the vineyard, you know, and gave a little plot for themselves. But that was back then. They were experimenting with taking some of the wild grapes that are indigenous to Wisconsin and doing a blend. And I want to say that it either was 2013, 2014, a little bit of wild grape was mixed in. Do I even have that on here? Yep, I think I do have that written on here. They said at that time they weren't putting the grapes in the bottle. So there's a little bit of wild grape in there. But what the wild grape did was really give you that sense. And using Steve's term, the terroir, it gives you a sense of that. So you get nice berry, you get nice cherry, you get nice cranberry fruit coming here. Acidity is nice. This is a 10-year-old wine. Now for the decanted. You definitely get a difference. It's a lot more richer with the wine that comes through the decanter versus here. So a lot more fuller tasting here versus here, but both have nice acidity to it. I'm going to say 10 years on this wine, a wine that they don't make anymore, the Glacier Red. They are still utilizing the Frontenac grape. You may find some St. Croix, but they're using more Frontenac, Petite Pearl, Marquette. They're doing a lot with those reds, you know, but just a phenomenal wine. It aged nicely. I'm going to enjoy this. You probably be able to find it, as I said. And for those who are new here, this is what the Purge is about. The Purge is about myself having so much wine, that's older, that's 10 plus years old, and I want to share those wines with you. I want to open those wines. I did a 16, I did a 19, a 16. Now we're doing a 10-year-old, and this is local. And I want to open those wines and share with you and give you my honest opinion if it aged or not. Now, this wine had a journey as well, just like the other wines. It went from my home cellar to my condo cellar to a couple of apartments in the closet, to now just sitting on a wine rack and keeping the temperatures consistently the same in each location where they live. But the wine aged pretty nicely. I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to find some food to enjoy this with. Maybe I'll get to shoot a video with it. But we'll find out. Maybe I take some pictures, see how it feels. What's your Wisconsin wine guy saying to you as always that you're a Palate Beauty guide? And I want to say to you, start purging some of those older wines. It may have went past its prime. So we'll see you next time on the next wine purge. I'm going to enjoy this Glacier Red by Pillar 44 as usual. I'll put the links and information about the winery down in the description. Be sure to check them out and give their wines a try. And if you live in a Midwestern state and you're still drinking, French wines, Italian wines, California wines, Oregon wines, I charge you to try some of your local wines and find the best in local wines that your state has to offer. Ciao.